taught you to hate the
Give
color
the sound
of
out
your
here.
skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself
Page
from the
1.
top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.
You remember that? Yeah. I always welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. Welcome today to Ra'an Nefer Amen. He's an author of Maat, the 11 Laws of God. This is an amazing book. I'm just getting through it. I'm up to chapter 10, and it's really amazing what this book has to say. And even more so, we have the author here today. Welcome to the show, Mr. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
This is really an eye-opener. Basically, to be at peace with yourself. In other words, in order to receive the wonders of the universe, God's love, energy, and everything that's very significant in my show, because as my audience knows, I'm always saying the God in me loves the God in you. And here I had a little, setback, let's say. I let my anger get the best of me, and then this book came to me. You know, it shows the wisdom of God, and as a result, one of my fans, I don't know, well, somebody that watches the show very often suggests that Dr. Amen come on the show. So, and this just happened in the last week or so, right? So here today, I've gone over the book, and it talks about really the center of your being and what your relationship with God is all about. And I needed it at the minute, at the moment, and here it came. Explain to us the 11 laws of God.
Well, first of all, when we take a look at ourselves, we're guided, most people are guided by two sources of influence within them. Their feelings or emotions, and their intellect.
Okay.
But there's a third source of influence, the spirit.
Of course.
Okay? And when we examine being guided by the feelings, we find that if we let our feelings guide us, we can make many mistakes in life. This is well done. You know, anger, fear, hatred can make you do a lot of things that you will regret. Right. Now, the intellect is a little bit ahead, a little step ahead, but it too can mislead you. You know, many of us have followed our intellect in choosing a mate, for example, a job, school, and make a wrong choice. You know, young man came to me and he said he wanted to choose, young lady came to me and wanted to choose a man because he was a go-getter, you know, take her business, but he ended up cheating on her. So the intellect is not that good a source. Important, but it's not the ultimate source. There's a part of us that is infallible. There's a part of us that is superior to the intellect and the feeling. That's the spirit. But the same way that we need a little education on how to use the intellect. We go to school. get a high school diploma, we get a bachelor's, master's, a PhD, to learn how to use the intellect. There's also an educational process for using the spirit.
Okay. And that's what this is.
And that's what this book is. It teaches you the laws governing the spirit. You see that? You know, how to relate to the feelings and the intellect in such a manner that it releases the powers of the spirit.
Okay.
And this is what this book is. And there are 11 laws that if you learn them and you live by them, you will have access to two important things of the spirit, which is wisdom and spiritual power.
Spiritual power. Now I see that this is framed on the Kabbalah, the Jewish Kabbalah, which precedes the Jewish Kabbalah.
Well, it's based on the tree of life, which in the ancient Egyptian is called the Paut Neteru, which precedes the Paut, P-A-U-T, Neteru, which is the source of the Jewish tree of life.
Right.
And it precedes and predates the tree of life on the Kabbalah by thousands of years.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
So a lot of people, you know, they read my books and they say, oh, you're doing Kabbalah. I say, no, I'm not doing Kabbalah. I'm doing an ancient African, philosophical framework that the Jews and others use, okay? You know, it's the same, we find it in different mandalas, you know, or cosmological frameworks or theoretical frameworks. You know, the Tibetan, wisdom wheel, the American Indian, medicine wheel. You know, all of these are different versions of the so-called tree of life.
Now, I always put it in perspective by explaining to my public that in the years that we were building pyramids, the European was in the cave.
That's correct.
I mean, that's been verified and documented. Not true? So we understand that, many of us went to school and thought that the beginnings of creation was Greece. And the Greeks actually learned from the Egyptians.
Well, I wrote a book that addresses that called Not Out of Greece.
Not Out of Greece.
The African origins of logic, mathematics, and science.
Oh, somebody, you mentioned that. Who mentioned that? I think you're
right, yeah.
One of your folks. All right, let's get to the practicality of all this. How do we apply this to our daily lives? Now, I just brought you an instance where things come to you. Like I ran into the brother in the subway, and I was going through an anger cycle, and this book came to me, and it gave me such comfort to know that I'd prayed on it, and all of a sudden he pops up with this book, and I find that the only way to really receive true wisdom is through peace.
Right. Peace in the face of adversity.
In the face of adversity.
That's correct. That's
when
what
somebody's about to go upside your noggin, you say, peace, my brother?
You find that peace within you.
Okay.
In other words, let's look at it this way here. If everything is going well in your life, you have no need for peace, no need for wisdom,
right?
No need for spiritual power. Everything is going well.
You do need to know the
I say when things are going well.
Well,
you don't need solution.
What you have, you need the wisdom, don't you?
No, everything's going well. You have no problems. You don't need a solution. When you need solutions is when you're having a problem.
Okay.
You see that? When you're up against the wall, that's when you need wisdom and spiritual power. But that's when people tend to get upset. You see that?
Yeah.
When they're having a problem. Now, whenever you are upset, meaning that you are in stress mode, IQ drops about 30 points.
Right. You mentioned it, right.
And most of us can't stand even the drop of 1 point. When you're upset, the blood flow to the vital organs is diminished.
Okay.
Makes you ill. Right. So being upset is not only a bad reaction, it is unnatural because it makes you ill and degrades your performance. The only state that is conducive to success is being at peace.
Okay.
That's a natural state that we must be in when we are in adversity.
And to receive wisdom.
And then once when you train yourself to go back to your original state, which is to be at peace, in the midst of adversity, then you'll find that your intuition The ability to learn from within becomes activated. And then a spiritual force, the power of the Spirit, which is the ability to rearrange externals through the inner force. You know, some people think that the only way you're going to solve the problem is through externals. Do you have the friends? Do you have the money? Do you have the physical? No, we also have an inner force that can change things around for, you know, bring us people and change things, rearrange things. That's the spiritual power. But the way to get it is, you know, is to be at peace in the midst of adversity. Now, to cultivate this peace, there are 11 laws that you have to train yourself in.
Well, let me just bring up this one item here that I found interesting. We're talking about making peace with loving a person and loving your enemy, turning the other cheek. But if you come home and find a man raping your daughter, you offer him your wife? That's a question. If it becomes necessary to kill him in self-defense, the law of love and oneness would not be violated.
In other words,
now that makes a lot of sense.
Well, at some point in the history of mankind, you know, it was realized that love is, you know, being able to love and cultivating love for one another is one of the means of, you know, getting to the wisdom and spiritual power of the Spirit. But this loving each other is misunderstood by lots of people. You see that? Meaning it's just not a simple matter of turning the other cheek. People feel that if you don't turn the other cheek, you're violating love. But that's not true. So in my book, I show people how you can defend yourself without violating the law of peace and oneness. Because people get paralyzed. You understand? By not understanding, you know, how to apply oneness and love. You know, some people, there's a lot of problems that, you know, people, you know, here's a man or a group of people who have, you know, the worst intentions towards you and your kind. So how do you react defensively? You want, maybe in your mind, you would like to see those people exterminated.
What you pray for?
Which you pray for. And you think you're justified as self-defense. But on the other hand, you might say, well, let me sit down and break bread with these people. So how do you find the correct way of being one with the man who declared himself your enemies without violating your
personal space? Your
personal space, your right to exist and flourish, and at the same time not violating the other person's personal space and right to...
Well, you get my attention by saying that you have a right to defend yourself.
That's
and
correct.
if you have to take a life to defend your life, you're still right with God.
But you have to learn how to do it with the right thinking, with the right, you have to have the right thoughts. That's the key. And in this book, I give the correct way of thinking, meaning that, let's talk about oneness with somebody. That's another one of the laws, you know.
Only kill as a last result.
Well, when I say oneness means that if you violate me, I can defend myself, but I must not conclude that your violation of me is an act against me. Because I have to remain one with you.
That's heavy. That's too heavy for most people.
I understand that, but... well, you
especially
know,
in this violent society.
Well,
I mean, where you coming from, my brother?
Well, let's look at this way here.
You say, wait a minute, my man comes up on me, he's about to knock me out, and I'm supposed to say, whoa, peace, my brother.
No, not saying, no, you don't say peace to the person, you say peace to yourself.
Okay.
Because if you stay at, if you remain at peace within yourself,
but
then you'll find the wisdom and the spiritual power to deal with that. To deal with that person. Yes.
Well, that's karate too. Yeah, I mean, never get angry, or even when you're boxing, you're fighting. You never, because if you go too crazy and get too angry, you don't really watch what's happening to you. So you're saying to defend yourself, you watch where the blow is coming from, but like with a peaceful hand, block it.
Right, okay, but
mentally.
From a mental perspective, what I'm simply saying is that if I recognize that your actions are seemingly to be against me, if I am at peace with your actions, then I have access to wisdom and spiritual power. So therefore, your actions furthered my quest for wisdom and spiritual power. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So I'm going through life seeking the two things I need most in life, which are what? Wisdom and spiritual power.
That's the purpose of being human on this planet.
That's correct.
So you don't get to come back again. Well, which you're stating here.
Well, we don't say so you don't get
Well,
to
you say
come back.
reincarnation.
Well, it's not so you don't come back. You can come back to help.
You can come back to help.
That's, yeah.
Once you receive your elevation, you get all the wisdom. I thought you didn't get to come back again.
No, you want to come back now to help. There are millions, billions of people who are
I don't want to come
now.
back. I figure this trip I'll be my trip helping.
Well,
I don't want to come back this way. I mean, I get a little discouraged with people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, humans in general. I mean, I try to stay peaceful at all times, but like I'm saying, just last week I was taxed to find peace with this, and this book came to me. So I mean, God is just looking out at all times, and I love the way it happened. Just gave my faith and my whole direction a whole new purpose. So you being on the show today is nothing but a direction from God. Hey, see how this stuff comes to me?
yeah.
And
Well, there
it's
comes
just
a
wonderful.
point. There comes a point where you welcome challenge.
Yeah,
You
well,
welcome
yeah.
a life of challenge
Okay.
because it no longer you're beyond being upset now.
All
You're
right.
beyond pain.
Right.
And then the point that I'm making in my book is that the only way you're going to get wisdom and
Mm-hmm.
spiritual power is through being challenged.
Of course.
In other words, if you want a strong body, you have
Mm-hmm.
to challenge the body. You cannot get strong body, sitting on the couch, at ease.
Mm.
If you want wisdom and spiritual power, you need challenge to come into your life.
Mm.
But you must learn to be at peace in the midst of that challenge. So that, you see, in other words, you see, you're no longer, bothered by the challenges. Because those challenges now further,
Oh, they're
you're
challenge-
getting wisdom and spiritual power.
Okay.
You see, we have been granted a spirit. You see that? That can solve all problems. A spirit that can remove all obstacles. But there are laws that govern, how to gain access to that power.
So we're constantly being tested. The closer we get to the spiritual power, the more we're tested.
That's correct.
I was tested yesterday, matter of fact.
And you'll be tested tomorrow again.
I know, and it was very interesting how I was tested. It was, little minor things. Somebody put KKK on the screen, little spiteful little boy act, and I didn't react. I just thought it was, wow. I mean, I used to get insulted by things like that, but it was so childish. I said, what is this for? I mean, but it's juvenile to think that people even try to rile you up with little things like that. I mean, it was really a child.
Well, the thing
Child's
is,
act.
a lot of people, go through life, right? We all seeking happiness. That's the master key. We are seeking happiness. And I define happiness as a life that moves from pleasure to peace.
Okay.
You see, that a lot of people have trouble defining happiness. You see, I define happiness, a life that moves from pleasure to peace. When you have it, enjoy it. When you don't have it, be at peace. When you don't have it, be at peace. You see that? Because the unhappy life is a life that moves from pleasure to pain. You have it, you enjoy it. You lose it, you're in pain. Or you have it, you came and enjoy it because you're worrying about losing it. You see that? So the thing is that, we are all seeking happiness, eventually. You see that? Okay? In other words, your job here, if you weren't happy doing this, you wouldn't want to do it. You see that? So the whole thing is that people think that happiness is found by trying to avoid difficulties, but that's impossible. You can't avoid difficulty. You cannot get happiness by simply eliminating the troublesome people in your life or, trying to arrange things, because you will always be tested. Whether it's personal or impersonal, you will be tested always. So the only thing that you can do is learn to gain access to the powers within your spirit. You see that? And this is what I do with this book here.
Okay. Is Dr. Yibo there? Dr. Yibo? No, he's looking for Dr. Yibo. Not him. No. All right. I'm sorry. Excuse us. I thought Dr. Yibo was there. We're waiting for Dr. Yibo to come in. I want you to get the people upstairs to be a little quieter, please. Thank you. What were we saying?
I'm just simply saying is that, you know, you're speaking about being tested. And
Right,
I'm saying
right,
to you
right.
that's something we can't avoid. You see, some people try to arrange their lives to avoid trials and tests, and that's impossible. You cannot eliminate or circumvent or you know, avoid being tested. So the only thing that you can do is to learn to control your reaction to the tests in life. But as long as you call them, as long as you look at them as problems and oppositions and challenges, as opposed to looking at them as opportunities to gain peace and spiritual power. So my book teaches you to look at every situation in life as an opportunity to get peace, to get, you know, spiritual power and wisdom by cultivating through meditation and correct thinking, you know, with the laws of the Spirit, you see, to look at them as opportunities, you see, through the peace that you cultivate.
How has all this knowledge came to you? What was your struggle like in life? I mean, you're black in America, you know, what was it like for you? Give us a little mini biography. Or where this source of energy comes from. I know it comes from God, but give us a little trip down your access
I was born
to all
in
this.
Panama.
Panama, okay.
And I came here when I was 16 years of age.
16, okay.
Right, and from the time I was 4, I trained as a concert pianist and composer.
You what?
Trained as a concert pianist and composer.
Okay. All
And
right.
I went to Maat II College of Music.
Okay.
And left 4 months before graduation, walked out.
You mind telling us how old you are?
I'm 60 now.
60?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I walked out of school
All right.
4 months before I graduated because I was not, you know, the racism in the musical field was too thick, and it still is to this day. That was back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And along
Well, as a concert pianist, you
Right.
could play jazz and things like that, no?
Well, no, not really. But I gave the music up to dedicate myself to spirituality,
Okay.
you know, and a lot of meditating. You know,
Okay.
my main, you know, source of gaining this information is through meditation.
How did you find America when you first got here? What was it like? Where did you live?
I live in Brooklyn my whole life.
Oh, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn and in the Bronx.
Well, Panama, from Panama to all the sun and...
It was like
Panama?
it was like moving out of paradise. but,
Right,
You
it
know,
had to be.
yeah.
And you came here and had to put on shoes and start walking?
No.
You wore shoes in Panama?
No, my standard of living was higher in Panama than here.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
What was Panama like?
Huh?
What was Panama like?
Well, the school I went to, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, by the time you graduated, you would have completed, in comparison to America, like 2 years of college.
Okay.
So when I came here, most of what they were teaching in high school, I already studied in Panama. So it was like a real letdown,
Okay.
you know, and so on.
You found racism in America was
So,
Hard to take.
incomprehensible.
Hard to take.
Because we didn't have it in Panama.
there's no racism in Panama?
No. There were class differences,
Class, okay.
but not race differences.
Okay. So this was a new take for you. So did all this help you in raising your level of awareness?
That's correct.
You turned to God under all this racism that you experience here in America.
Yes,
Is that
because if I had stayed in Panama, I would have become a concert pianist for
Okay.
sure.
All right.
And when I came here, I found out, rudely that it wasn't about how good I was. It was about being black or white.
So you
You see
came
that.
here in
1960.
60. In 60.
1960, May of 1960.
1960, May of 1960.
Mhm.
It wasn't that bad in New York then. I mean, in comparison. Well, I got a few years on you, but, I'm born and raised in New York. Well, you're lucky you didn't go to Mississippi or any place. You really got an eye opener. But New York wasn't really that bad.
Well, it wasn't.
Well, we didn't think it was that
It
bad
wasn't on
either.
the outside, but on the inside.
Right,
When
okay. When you tried to do
they
things
gave me a
like that.
scholarship to go to the Maat II College of Music
Mm-hmm.
because I had done in 3 months on my own what it took 4 years to teach.
Okay.
At the school.
Ah, okay.
And then I had another paper another work that I presented, which was a follow-up and extension of the work that they gave me the scholarship for,
Okay.
and they just ignored it.
Mm.
And then I was told, well, if you're a white kid, they would have really raved about it,
Okay.
made a lot of brouhaha about it. And, so I kind of like just, got
So
discouraged.
what direct you to this? Racism, having to fight?
No, as a kid in Panama, I've always been, my grandfather was a dental surgeon.
Ah,
And he always had us reading a lot. He
Okay.
was one of these men
All right.
that,
Okay.
believe in education.
Mhm.
And he gave us a lot of books on spirituality and things
Okay.
to read and history and so on,
mm-hmm.
And, and then in the Latin American countries, there's a lot of spirituality.
Okay.
There's a big spiritual connection there.
So what were you doing in the 70s? I mean, were you into spirituality back then?
Oh, yeah, even before that, back
Before
in the
that?
60s.
In the 60s, yeah.
Yes.
During the Love Child days? I mean,
Yeah, well,
you
I
went out
wasn't-
partying, having a good time?
No, by 1961, I changed my diet, became vegetarian.
Ah, 61, yeah.
61,
Oh,
and began to
wow.
teach myself astrology and meditation, all these things and so on,
What do you think of this opening with Malcolm?
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Hmm?
That's great.
Were you into Malcolm at all?
Oh, yeah. So
Were you into the-
Dr. Clark, he
Okay.
spoke at my center many times. We had him speak.
All right.
Yeah.
So you came up in the movement.
I came up in the movement. studied poetry with Imam Baraka at the Black Arts
Oh,
Rhetoric
all
School
right,
Theater
Yeah, all right.
back in the 60s.
Yeah, I know in Brooklyn you got it. Oh, you in the heart of the movement right there in Brooklyn. My goodness. Who else out of Brooklyn were you familiar with? Baraka was one.
Well, Baraka was out in Jersey,
That's right. He was in
right? But he had a school in Harlem called the Black Arts Repertory School Theater
Okay.
for poetry and so on,
Mm-hmm. So, but do you do anything with your concert work at all?
No, I have dedicated myself now for the past 30 years to developing an organization which is not international in scope.
Okay, that's what you're telling me about.
We
Okay.
are based in New York.
Okay.
That's the headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And we have chapters all the United States, as well as in Canada, in England, in Bermuda, in Trinidad, in St. Thomas.
And you give classes in meditation.
Classes of meditation in Chinese medicine, in homeopathy, in African spirituality,
Okay.
in the oracle systems.
And this comes from African spirituality.
That's correct.
Okay.
And, so we're all over the United States, and our classes are broadcast over the internet,
Mm-hmm.
to our members, live, or they archive and they download it and so on. So it's international, circulation of these classes.
Hmm. What are some of the classes that you give, other than what you spoke of? What I wanted to really talk about is how do we reach the young?
Mm-hmm.
How do we reach the hip-hop generation?
Mm-hmm.
You can see how young blacks are today. I mean, you come from a different environment when you were a youngster, so you had some foundation where you got. But see, when you're born and raised in America, your whole imagery, like Malcolm said in the beginning, how you appear, what the size of your nose is, and the complexion of, how dark you are, how light or dark. This isn't exist in Panama?
No.
Light
no.
and dark and all that
No.
stuff?
As a matter of fact, in
Wow.
Panama, in the Latin American countries, there's a word called chombo.
Chumbo.
Chombo means black,
Okay.
and also means beautiful.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And if you call a white person, if you want to say that the white person was beautiful, you call it a chombo.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Now, as in Panama, the standard of beauty was black.
Okay.
You understand that?
Right.
And there wasn't that racial thing. I did not grow up knowing this. Black white kids went to school together. The whole
Yeah.
thing. It was class differences.
But you see, in this slave mentality, in the Willie Lynch syndrome that we come under here in America, you have to understand that whole syndrome of wanting to look white.
Well,
And
there's a thing that Malcolm said, right? Don't let the enemy educate your children.
that's what we've done.
And what I did in the past 20 years, right, was to create my own schools
Okay.
for our
Alright.
kids. We have a school in
Yes.
New York.
Okay.
We have a school in Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
and a school in Milwaukee,
All right.
where we go from preschool to the 12th
Okay.
grade.
All right. Okay.
You see that?
Okay.
Private schools,
All right. Great.
And so for the past 20 years or so, we have educated our own children.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, and they grow
wow.
up. They not only do they learn, you know, all the academic stuff and so on, because many of our kids have graduated from universities. They've gotten scholarship universities, and they're college graduates now.
Okay.
But along with learning academics, they learn their African culture. Okay, they learn meditation, they learn qigong, they learn yoga. Okay, they learn their African spirituality.
So
And
the
this
whole
is the
idea
best
about
way.
learning mostly about yourself, which we don't learn. Well, you know, I went to school here in America. And, I knew nothing but Tarzan about Africa until I was. You know, I didn't become aware until, wow, the 70s at least. Why? You know, and then I started going to bookstores and start. I don't know. I was like directed because I always knew I was here before. I always felt that something about ancient Egypt was very familiar, you know, and I always knew I was Ethiopian. My mother took me to a Ethiopian church when I was like 11 and 12, and I remember walking in and feeling at home, like there was a kinship there. And the first time I saw Ethiopians, and I mean, you guys hear this all the time, but I felt a kinship to them. And I felt that that was home. And I've searched for this all my life. But this book here really was like an eye-opener. So I recommend that everybody read this book. Seldom I bring a book to you that I find personally an eye-opener. This is Maat, the 11 Laws of God, by the author who's sitting right in front of us. And we'll, at the end of the show, we'll give you a number where we can call, or you can call me at my number, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of this. I'm telling you, it's really an eye-opener. And it's apropos for what we're all about, as far as going through the struggle of being black here in America. It's really, really at peace. And it's really been rewarding to really read this. And with that, what do you find the most difficult thing to teach to people about this finding peace in yourself? I can speak because I'm mature enough to understand it. But I didn't come to this maturity until I was almost 50, I think. I think I was a rogue, and you might have came to it a little early in life. But I didn't come to that until, I mean, I was still out there carousing and boozing and carrying on when I was 40s, late 40s. You know, and only until I got to my 50s did I start to really concentrate on peace within myself.
Well, the most difficult thing that we have in this is helping people understand that it's a way of life.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the American way is to intellectualize, you know, spiritual teachings. You know, you read a book on spirituality, and you read it, you understand it, you talk about it. But then now, the spiritual laws challenge you to live. If you don't live it, it's not going to help you. You see that? Okay. And then now, like you said, the stronger you are indoctrinated into a certain lifestyle, the harder it is for you to change. You know. Okay. And we have a meditation system.
You know what we're going to do? Since Dr. Yibo isn't here, why don't we get one of your students on the show?
Sure.
Why don't you come on, and we'll give them a mic, and we'll get firsthand, instead of from the horse's mouth, we'll get from somebody you've taught.
Sure.
And this is a young man who I ran into on the subway. Get him mic'd up and see if we can't do something.
Hello, how you doing?
All right.
Okay.
Sit, watch the camera behind you. All right, Dr. Yibo hasn't gotten it yet, but if he comes, come on, watch the camera. So what we do is actually have a case study of someone that's benefited from all this teaching. And the young man that's responsible for you being on the show today. Welcome to the show. You didn't expect to come on today, but you know, I do things like that, so right. You have to be careful when you show up in the studio. You know, as a last resort. Well, tell us about, tell them about how we met in the first place. That was interesting.
Well,
was really interesting.
About 2 weeks and Wednesdays ago, I was watching you with Dr. Joseph, Dr. Joseph Behaken.
Ah,
Behaken,
Dr.
yeah,
Ben. Oh,
Dr.
that
Ben,
was a
right,
tape show,
right.
yeah.
And I was watching it, and so sometimes you put the line for people to call if they want to. And I was hoping that you would have done that week, because I said, has you ever heard of Shechem Shechem or Raun Nefe Amen? I was going to call to ask you that, you know. And apparently you didn't put on, you didn't have any opening,
It
you know.
wasn't live
Right,
that day.
okay.
It wasn't live.
So as I was saying that, when the show was over, I said, one day I will meet him. And as I was saying that, I was picturing me seeing you. And it happened to be a Wednesday, huh? Remember the day, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, and went to work on Saturday. So on my way back, you know, usually I take the Q because I live in Manhattan. I will take the Q, get off, and between Central Park and Columbus. And that night I said, no, let me go through Broadway, because my person does not like to walk through 42nd Street that much, you know. And I took the other train to go and take the number 1 train, the local. And, you know, you walk into the alley, you know, the platform, and you're looking, and you were lacing your shoes, you know.
Right.
And I'm like looking at you. I said, well, that's a brother, you know. And I went to you, and I asked you, I introduced myself, and then I said, what, Gilchrist, something like that? Then you said, Winston Gilchrist. I said, yes. Then I told you the story. And the thing was, you said you were waiting, usually take number 2 train?
Well, 3.
3, right. And the number 2 just left,
two,
right.
yeah.
And then I said, oh, so we were talking. And then I asked you, you know, have you heard of, you know, Shechem Shechem? You said, no. I said, what about Raun Nefe Amen 1? You said, no. And I happen to have the schedule, the school schedule we have for different, you know, classes. And then it was your old one. I have all of them in my bag.
Tell us about some of the classes that you take.
Well, I have taken...
what do you found the most rewarding?
Okay, I was at there myself, you know. I was, well, should I say Rastafarian and all that, dreadlocks and everything.
Rasta?
Yeah.
You're a Rasta man.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
With this
cool.
spliff, man.
Yeah, man, everything,
Ah,
yeah.
you're smoking spliff, man.
Yeah, man,
You
yeah.
came to this and what happened?
Yeah. But still looking, I know something still not, you know, I'm in the brethren, you know, the Rastafarian, you know.
You've read this, haven't you?
Oh, yes, yes, I've been through it a lot, yes.
So how did this help you stop smoking?
Well, I've been at Osset Society for the past, 1997. So how many years is that? About 7 years? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And it's funny, like I used to sell unk, and, you know, I used to sell outside oil and stuff like that. And then, so this brother used to tell me, listen, there's a temple you should go. They will bless your dread. And then, you know, it's discussing about unk and forget about Christianity and all that. So I said, yeah, another one, yeah.
What
go
you
to
were
a
smoking,
temple.
how much?
No, I was selling outside. I used to sell
No,
oil.
how much were you smoking a day?
Oh,
No, I want practical.
yeah, I used to smoke a lot. You know, I used to smoke a lot because I want to meditate.
How you able to
No, how were you able to stop smoking?
Through meditation, when I embraced, you know, the temple and then the lecture that he
So you were able to get high meditating?
on meditation, right. I found out I didn't have to use that substance to make me realize to become at peace, to become calm. So I didn't have to use on herbs because I also found out marijuana also is a plant. God created that it has its purpose, but not really to smoke. You know, different things we can do with it, whatever. But through meditation, but also remember, sometimes you have, even when you say you stop, right? If you say you stop, I stop smoking. But sometimes you still have the tendency of going back through challenges. Sometimes, you know, something
Through adversity.
right?
When
Then you
have a
said,
problem, you run back to the
let me
smoke.
go smoke to look for that
See,
peace.
you know what happened with this book here? You know, I used to run to smoke
Okay.
when I used to get angry,
Okay.
to chill me out.
Mm-hmm.
But reading this book, I found peace, and I got this euphoric feeling of peace. I said, oh, yeah, that's right. This is what this challenge is about. When you gave me this book, I said, oh, and I started reading. I said, wow. And I got this euphoric feeling. I said, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be at peace with myself. That's what God's trying to say.
Right, right. So that's exactly right.
I was like getting high.
Yeah,
man.
it is.
It was a trip.
You found out you don't
really
need it.
was.
Understanding. Deep understanding.
It really
so
was. I mean, that peace just came over me. I said, oh, yeah, okay. You're right. This is the only way to do this, man.
Yeah.
I just went right down to a meditation, man. I just felt so good about myself. I said, I didn't go to nothing. So you can do it without smoking. Believe me.
And you realize that you don't really need it, because even some brethren, Rastafarian out there, time to time, if we run to each other, they will tell, you know, when I share things with them, that, and they will go like, brother, can I see you again? I say, well, this is where you can come, you know. And some of them come, you know, take classes and everything. And they really realize, you know, we didn't really come here to, I said, well, God created me, and I didn't really have to have God to say, well, oh, by the way, one more thing. Not only for the smoking and everything, also my blood pressure.
Your blood pressure
went down too.
You calm yourself.
Because the way, like, you know, I used to be more active, in other words, not active, but upset and certain things. I get to find myself more calm, you know, come into, you know, the true self, you know, because everything I was watching was like we giving praise to the animal, to the vehicle, you know, like the king was saying, challenges will come, and
all
sometimes,
yeah,
look what you do to me. And it, by the way, it's not easy too, because even when I was taking courses, challenges will come. I said, look, man, I ain't put with that. No, you know.
Taking what?
No, when I was taking courses, like the meditation at the beginning, the challenges will come. Because it takes time to develop it also. Hey, man, you know I'm supposed to meditate, but like, you know, you step on me, I got to step on your back, you know.
Yeah.
But today, you know.
Is that spiritual maturity that takes?
Yeah.
Emotional maturity.
Spiritual maturity, yeah. I really found like, you step on me, I have the trust, I can smile, walk away, because to bring that inner peace from me to you.
That's so hard
you
to
know?
do, man.
Well,
see, my Marine always comes out when I get angry. I gotta fight a monster, you know, and it's.
Well, we have meditation.
It's crazy. It's crazy, you know. Yeah. That old Marine comes out, it's maddening, and I don't like him. And it's hard to cool him down sometimes. It's maddening. But just talking about it, I got a little rush there, because it's an emotional, you know, memory bank.
True.
You know, it's like you know, defense mechanism for an attack.
That's correct.
But with this, if you think about being attacked and just lay back, and the only way I'm going to get out of this is to chill. Just to be cool and let God guide me through this whole maze, and watch the spiritual energy just come to you. I mean, wow. I mean, J's have never been that nice. I mean, when you get God's love coming to you, you're trying to fulfill your purpose in life. And like you say, we're here to love God. And when you really realize that that's your purpose here, man, life becomes a joy. And that anger just disappears. I mean, it's, you know, it's like, it's 3 J's, man. You start getting high, just thinking about, you know, love energy. You know, that's what God is, love. God is love. And that other monster that you talk about, that Marine that I talk about, is nothing but the devil in me.
There you go.
Ain't nothing but the devil. Because the devil's a man. It's not a fallen angel, as you see in the book here.
Yeah.
And there were so many confirmations in this book that were really so helpful. I mean, I really appreciate this book. It's just in the last week since I met you.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been reading this thing. I said, whoa. And this is the way your blessings come. I mean, you never know, on a 42nd Street subway.
Yes, yes.
There'll be somebody that'll say, aha, I got something for you, my brother. And that's what I bring to you. Definitely read this book. I mean, it's really a joy. It's better than getting high. It is a high, matter of fact. As you can see, I'm just elated by it. And well, Dr. Yibo didn't get in here, but I'm glad we had time to go over this. And it's like, one of the times, this is years ago, must be 30 years ago, I'd raised my Kundalini. I went to a Kundalini yoga class. And I was half drunk, stumbling in there, right? And I went through this exercise, and I actually felt an energy come up the back of my spine and hit me on the top of the head. The top chakra was opened up, and my eyes bugged out, and I went back to where I'd been prior to that, and he said, how'd your crystal, your eyes are so clear. What happened to you? And I wasn't aware of it, but I know I felt sober and awake. And it was just these exercises that just generated all this energy, and it really cleansed the body. So it can happen. But that's what this was like.
Yeah.
That's what this was like. You know, I felt my whole head energized when I just thought about the feeling of being at peace and then really fulfilling God's message. You know, that comes to all of us. So this is the purpose in life, is to find yourself and the God that lies within. And thank you.
Thank
really
you, too.
appreciate
Yeah,
this.
one
Helped
like
me an
to,
awful
yeah.
lot. So hopefully, through the Gilchrist experience, we all learn what's going on. Right? Who's
Yeah.
that over there? Is that my brother from way back? I can't see your face, so you have to come over here so I can see what it is. Maybe we'll bring you on. Who is that? What's your name?
Malachi.
I saw it. I thought that was you,
Okay.
Malachi. All right.
All
Why
right.
don't you give Malachi a
Sure.
We've got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Oh, we only have... No, watch the camera.
Oh,
Watch the
sorry.
camera. Watch
I'm
the
sorry.
camera. Just change the mic for me, will you please? Give Malachi a few minutes.
Can we
And
give a website where they can go?
of course,
Yes.
take his
One
website too, would you please? This is live from Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Okay.
You see, this is the way I do things, man, on the spur of the moment. Watch the camera. Watch the camera. Watch the camera behind you. Anyway, this is Malachi, another good brother. Do you know this book? Have you seen this book?
No, I haven't. I mean,
And also, Dr. Yibo is going to be here today. This is the Grand Unified Theorem.
I'm familiar with that brother, and I was
Okay.
actually waiting
To see him
see
today.
him and
All right.
speak.
He didn't show up today. So. Dr. Yibo, we're all waiting with bated breath for you to show up. Second time you stood me up, my brother. Welcome to the show, Malachi. Malachi, go back, what, five years
I
ago?
think first time I met you, I was coming back out here from California organizing for the Million Youth March.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
and it was just before the Million Youth March. We came on with some folks from the Black Panther Collective. We're here
Right,
with
right.
Khalid Muhammad.
That's what it was, Khalid. That's where it was, right here in the studio.
was right here in the
Khalid
studio.
Muhammad.
Right, absolutely.
And have you heard what we've been talking about?
I have. I got an opportunity to listen to a little bit of it, and it's pretty powerful. I think.
I mean, something can get you to stop smoking and drinking and cutting up and.
I think, yeah, I think it's great. I think we're kind of in a period right now of spiritual development. You know,
right.
And with Dr. Yibo, a lot of this knowledge, this is not new knowledge. It's all coming forward.
Have you heard about this Grand United?
Oh,
Theorem?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
It's quite a book. He talks about the beginnings of creation through a great wave of energy and coming out with a third hydrogen atom, which is supposed to be the beginnings of creation.
Mm.
Matter of fact, I understand that extraterrestrials feed off this third hydrogen atom
Really?
for fuel.
Okay.
That's another show. That's for Phil Valentine and his crew.
I was going to ask you, where did that come from? Phil Valentine?
No, actually, I saw it on television.
Okay. Interesting.
And
Interesting.
they were explaining how the spaceships receive their energy. Do you have any exposure to any of that in your travels? Extraterrestrial,
No exposure to that.
you know,
Well,
God.
Khalid Muhammad was a very good friend of mine.
Really?
We used to
Okay.
speak all the time, and he used to promote one of my books, Midnighter.
Absolutely, I'm familiar with that book as well. As a matter of fact, that
Tell us
book.
about this book, Meta.
Oh, please.
Tell us about
But
Meta.
Midnighter is my flagship book.
The what?
My flagship.
Flagship, okay.
Flagship.
That's where I recognize your name, seeing that
Right,
book.
you know, and it's become the #1 bestseller among all black books dealing with black spirituality, black, you know, it's been out now for...
Is it something like this book here?
Much more in depth.
Okay.
You know, it's been out for 14 years now. It's an international bestseller for
Oh,
black
okay.
books on spiritual culture.
Okay.
And Khalid Muhammad used to give it to all of his people, and the Nation of Islam would give it to many of your you know, ministers to read as required reading and stuff, because it goes very, very in depth into, you know, the spirit and how to understand the spirit.
Okay.
It's actually coming in contact with that book that actually got me into meditation and breathing exercises. Coming in contact with those volumes, because they're two volumes. They're two volumes. Okay.
You had a spiritual awakening, didn't you? From Khalid up to now, what was that trip like?
I
Panther to today.
I
Because
think
you're the youth of today. Bring your mic up a little higher.
sure.
I think your mic's a little low.
I don't see. I try not to delineate and compartmentalize my political development from my spiritual development, because I think that's the African mind. You know, the African.
Are you hear him?
Is
he here?
Yeah, I think the African and native mind does not compartmentalize, whereas, you know, the European mind, you know, instinctively
Tell
does.
us how we can reach the youth.
How to reach
Because-
the youth, brother. That's several shows.
Because you're 30-something, right?
No, I'm 29.
29. You didn't hit
29.
30 yet.
I haven't hit 30 yet.
You're the folks that we need to reach. Now you're just much more beyond your years, really. I know your maturity is a little.
I've had the benefit of of having, well, growing up in Harlem. I've had the benefit of growing up in Harlem, where there are books like Maat II that you could pick up. You know, I got my schooling. I didn't get my schooling in the New York City educational system. I got it on the street. You know, where, you know, the market used to be on 125th Street with all the street vendors. That's where I got my education.
Okay.
You know, so that
So
helped
it
a lot.
can happen to a youth to get this sort of mentality
Well,
today.
it's a lot more difficult because, you know, the state has recognized, you know, this information, you know, so it's not always just about gentrification. You know, there's an underlying spiritual, you know, objective or something counter to spirituality that, you know, has these individuals that control things trying to remove information like this. So
Did
that
you hear
youth don't
about his
get it.
school that he's raising kids up?
I just heard a little bit
the
about
life.
But one of the things that we're doing too is that there are a lot of talented young people in my group that are doing like what we call positive spiritual rap, where they're recycling the cultural, you know, Malcolm X spiritual things out of my books and things like into the rap music.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I was a musician at one time, you know, and I left the music industry because I had to write garbage. You understand that, to get it played, you know. So they would not really promote positive black images, right? So what I did, I created a website.
Okay.
Okay, which is where we're going to in a month or so, we are going to now start distributing, you know, DVDs and CDs that these young people are making.
Okay.
You know, a lot of rap things and, you know, so forth, with the positive images and the positive messages.
Okay.
We have to create our own distribution channels for that.
Okay.
You see, in other words, the older people, you know, we own the resources.
Great.
So we help the young people now, you know, put it on wax, that's the, wax.
Put it on wax.
DVD nowadays.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and then also distribute it for them.
I've even seen the portable DVDs.
Yes.
For $200 and some odd.
So that's how we get to the deal. In other words, we have to provide for them, you know, business, help them get into business, you know, with the positive messages.
Okay.
Because if our black kids grow up constantly looking for white people to give them jobs or promote them or whatever, then they forget about the older blacks. You see, they lose respect.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure that the black people can look at the older black people for assistance in getting out in the world. You see that?
It's interesting that you brought up how reaching the youth. I'm currently working with the National Hip Hop Political Convention. That's going to be taking place here, in Newark, New Jersey, on June 16th through the 19th.
All right.
And the objective of this political convention, because it is an actual political convention, is to create a voting bloc.
Great,
of the national
great,
hip-hop
great.
community and, you know, to vote on an agenda that the hip-hop community will push nationally.
Let's talk about that. That's what we
Absolutely.
talked about last time I ran into you, right?
Absolutely.
Good, good. That's fascinating. You know, getting the youth to vote. Everybody should register to vote. Don't be stupid enough to think that your vote doesn't count.
But also an educated vote. That's
An
what we're
educated
very
vote.
concerned about as well, is to educate people around the
Exactly.
vote.
You watch what Reverend Sharpton's doing. I mean, you might have your ups and downs, but he's the only game for us in town. All right, and really pay attention to that, because it's all about delegates and it's about getting our platform, something that's going to benefit us as a people. I mean, we used to have political parties all over the place. I mean, not political parties, but different political approaches to how to get to integration and the rest of this stuff. Now it's, you know, just recognizing that we exist nowadays and that we should own some of our own homeland, which is Harlem. And with what's happening in the Kermit Edie and the Black United Fund and all the other stuff that's going on down here, it's shameful. But, well, stay tuned and we'll see what kind of solution we can bring to all these problems. Again, it's been the Gilchrist experience. And thank you for coming, Malik.
Thank you.
I'm glad you showed up.
Thank you so much for having me on the
Dr.
show.
Yibo, you missed another good one. And Dr. Amen, thank you again for Maat, the 11 Laws of God. I mean, this is going to, I have to reread this. I'm only up to chapter 10, but it's only 130 pages, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to read.
Oh, yes.
So,
Well, people were asking for something a little easier because my book's
Yeah.
like 420 pages.
give me another shot of that. And you can call me at my number, and I'll give you a number to call. All right? So, again, thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
you're welcome back.
Okay.
Malik, we have to do something
That
about
you
the
belong to.
religious thing with
Absolutely.
the
Nice
kids.
meeting
So much so that you don't want to be
Remember,
around
register
each
to
other.
vote, especially
No,
18.
Before you come asking Mr.
18 to
Muhammad,
20.
does he teach hate? You should ask yourself who taught you to hate being what God
Well,
gave you.
the target group is actually, because we're working on a delegate
Most of
system, I
us
mean, of course,
blacks,
the 18.
or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.